over there. Oh, I love it. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree planted by the water. We shall not be moved. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down the long, dark, and shameful corridors of time, reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Dr. King knew that people of goodwill must always face the challenge of whether they will or they will not, with righteous indignation, speak up when justice is in peril. Stand up when the very foundation of our democracy is threatened. Rise up when the powerful and the privileged misuse and abuse and wield their will to oppress and diminish and destroy. So no pressure, ESP. But you are those people of goodwill that Dr. King was talking about. Our ESP members, uniting and inspiring and leading for the whole student. Let me begin by recognizing and celebrating your bold and visionary leaders. Where are our ESP NEA directors? Let me see you. Wave your hands. Give me a shout out. Woo! And our NCESP officers, where are ya? Yeah, there they is. Yeah, led by one phenomenal woman, Debbie Chandler. If you have not met her, you need to, because she embodies all three of the pillars of unionism that our association focuses on. And this is not moving. Maybe if I dance. Nope. Okay. So we might get that up. We'll see. Where am I pointing it? Where is the computer? Can you advance it from back there? Oh, we're at the end. Well, that was easy. Talk amongst yourselves, but not too long.
It is no.
Oh, okay. Oh. There we go. We have some pillars. Yay! Give the pillars a hand. For those of you who are new to if this is your first NEA conference, then this would be the first time probably you've heard us talk about the fact that the work of the National Education Association embodies three what we call pillars. We have our traditional advocacy pillar, which includes making sure that those men and women who have dedicated their lives to educating America's children have the wages, hours, and working conditions they need to do the jobs they love. You're probably familiar with that one. You may not be as familiar with the other two. The other two are the professional practice advocacy pillar of our unionism and the social justice advocacy pillar of our unionism. It is those two that we're going to explore together today. Last year at the 2016 NEA Representative Assembly, for those of you who are new, that's where 10,000 of our closest friends gather and decide what the NEA is going to commit its resources to, its time, money, and people. And at the RA last year, the ESP of the year, Doreen McGuire-Grigg, challenged us all with these compelling words. Amazing things can happen when education support professionals are treated as partners and allies in student success. We are here to support the whole student and the whole school and the whole community. Doreen, I could not agree more. I got a chance to see that in action last week. Where are you, Texas? I was wondering, where are you? When I visited San Antonio for our annual celebration of NEAs Read Across America. And at once I was struck by the community within that school. Everyone was surrounding their students with the support they needed so that each and every one of them could realize their dreams. And so as I walked around this school and I saw teacher I am, and then I saw custodian I am, and then I saw nutritionist I am, and then I saw paraeducator I am, and then I saw social worker I am, everyone formed that community. So Doreen is exactly correct. And as an organization, we have a responsibility to not only honor each and every one of the men and women who have stepped up to this work, but we need to embrace every one of them as our partners and allies. So last year, or 2 years ago, our ESP leaders actually took on the challenge of elevating their professional practice when they led the effort to pass New Business Item B at the RA. It directed the NEA to develop a professional continuum model for each one of the 9 ESP job categories. This work began in earnest about 1.5 years ago, and they used quite a unique process. It's called participatory action research. And you can see in those circles all around that we actually pulled together the many groups of ESP leaders who inform NEA's work. We were able to capture their expertise and their learnings to do this work. Through that process, we did something. It was working nicely, wasn't it? Can you advance it back there? Wow. Oh, okay, here we go. Through that process, they were able to, over almost a 2-year period of time, develop this model of a professional growth continuum for our education support professionals. Now you will notice that on this slide, they have identified what they called principles, and there are 8 of them. Communication, organization, technology, cultural competence, ethics, reporting, professionalism, health, and safety. Their work, however, is not finished. We still have to finalize the competencies for each one of those levels. You see the leadership, the mentoring, and the role modeling that has to be completed at each of those levels, from foundational to proficient to advanced or mastered in each one of the 9 job categories. So we have a lot of work yet to do. We are also in the process of developing self-assessment tools so you can determine where you fit on that continuum and what additional work you need to do. And lastly, we are beginning the process of engaging stakeholders throughout the education community, not only our ESP, but the people that are going to need to support that work, from school board members who need to fund it, to our principals and administrators, to teachers, to our community members, all the folks that we need to support this work so that we can create the kind of professional development and implementation strategies that we'll need to actually make this real. But we have taken this significant step, and it is significant, and we've done it because you, our ESP leaders, said that we are taking the responsibility to elevate our professions. As you can see, cultural competency is included as one of the principles in this continuum. That happened because all the ESP leaders working on the professional growth continuum believed that it was critical, absolutely essential, that ESP members have an understanding about racial justice in education. It is that part of our social justice advocacy that is the focus of today's sessions. Our ESP, leading the way on racial justice in education. Let me begin by reviewing what this work is and where we are in our journey. Last year, we started this journey in our bucket of awareness, beginning with defining what institutional and structural racism is, the policies and practices that are structured into our political and economic and social institutions that impose oppressive conditions and deny rights and equality based on race and ethnicity. This year, we have been expanding our individual and collective awareness by learning from each other at the state and local and member level. We're also engaging with our partners, some of whom you met this afternoon. And we've begun to build what we term our capacity, building our muscle to actually do this work through trainings and the development of tools and materials. And of course, we have already become activists, from impacting discipline policies that adversely affect most especially our students of color, to coming together to rally for social and racial justice. If you have not already, please visit our Ed Justice site. It is a one-stop shop where you can find a host of materials and readings and tools and videos, all so that you can prepare to take on this work. And you will also have an opportunity to immediately become a social justice advocate. I have to tell you, we have been so overwhelmingly inspired by the magnitude of the commitment of our members to lead in this work. I think that after listening to 3 pretty phenomenal folks, you will agree. So let's now hear from our colleagues who are doing this work and learning about it. And you're going to hear what they're going to ask of you. Please welcome to the stage our panelists for this afternoon. Come on down, folks. Come on down. We have with us Andre Mathis. Andre, yeah, give him a hand. Andre, wave your hand. Andre is the district registrar for the Union Endicott Central School District, currently serving in his first term. You can have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Currently serving his first term as co-president for the Union Endicott Office Personnel Association. Andre also serves as the advisor for the Mock State Senate at Union Endicott High School, and he serves on the Board of Trustees for the Union Endicott Education Foundation. Give him a hand. Yay. You're a busy, very, very busy man there, Andre.
Yes.
Next, we have Ellen Olson. Yay! Ellen is a sign language interpreter. Oh, got some fans out there, Ellen. She serves as the St. Paul Federation of Teachers Director of Non-Licensed Personnel, is on the governing board of Education Minnesota, and is an ESP at-large director, joining me and the rest of the board members at the NEA Board of Directors. Ellen is also the chair of her school's racial equity team. Give her a hand. And last, but certainly not least, we have Saul Ramos. Saul is a paraeducator and brailleist from the Worcester Public Schools. Saul is the vice president of the Education Association of Worcester and the vice chair of MTA's Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee. He also serves on NEA's Resolutions and Sexual Orientation Gender Identification Committees, and is a member of the Paraeducator Institute Work Group and a graduate of the ESP Leaders for Tomorrow program. And Saul is one of our 2017 ESP of the Year nominees. Give him a welcome. So how you doing?
Good.
Very well. Is my microphone on? Can you hear me? So we're just going to have a conversation. You're welcome to join us, but we're going to talk amongst ourselves, if you don't mind. But when we're done, so as you're thinking, as you're listening to some of the things that your colleagues are going to share with you, if you have a question that you might want to ask them, jot it down. We're going to give you a few minutes to ask some questions from the audience as well. So Andre, why don't we start with you? What do you believe that why do you actually believe that the work of education support professionals is so critical to actually achieving racial justice in education?
I think it's important because of the fact that as ESPs, we shouldn't let our titles define what we do. Granted, we're not set to just go to work, for a granted period of time and then leave and then things stop. As ESPs, we understand what goes on in our schools and our districts. We see our students the most and we understand where they come from. And so it's about connecting, and so I think it's important that for every student that has an equal education, the country as a whole succeeds. And so I think it's important that collectively we work with our teachers and with administrators to make sure that we're making sure that every student is having an equal, not only equal education, but an equal society as overall.
What actually, I'm going to say, called you to begin this work?
I think for me, it's personally just a matter of my growing up and my education. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where in a neighborhood where most people don't go on to achieve success because of just their environment. And so I've always felt that every time you progress and move up in life, you have to give back to those that gave you the opportunity to do so. And so that's why in my professional role, I started the Mock State Senate, and one of the reasons why was because of what was going on with Ferguson and in Baltimore. I felt that young men of color needed to understand that the system is not against them overall, that they can have an opportunity to see an example of how you can make an influence in your society just by kind of doing a process of the state legislative session. For a lot of our students in the Endicott area, they see that their only way out is just through athletics or through entertainment. And so I wanted to give young men of color the opportunity to see how they could be an influence in other ways.
Thank you, Andre. So can you pick up where Andre left off and also tell us why you think it's so important for our ESP leaders to be involved in this work, and tell us what called you to do it.
Yes.
So is next,
Excuse
Ellen.
me, I beg your pardon.
Sorry. I think one of the first things I would say is take a look in the room. I mean, we have a room full of so much diversity, but I think, you know, ESPs are, we live in the community that we serve in, and we need to have our students see themselves reflected in ourselves, in us. You know, it's great when I walk into a school, and I work in an inner city, so the majority of our students are ethnic minorities, and it's great when they see you because they quickly gravitate towards you and they want to know more about you. And one of the things they always ask me is, you speak Spanish? And when I say yes, they light up and they feel so much more comfortable. But it's not just for our students, but also for the parents. When they walk into a school, most of them are really nervous about how to approach a school, if there's any language barriers, or just feeling welcome at the school. And I think us being people who live and work in the community, and they see us out there and seeing us in the schools in those roles is something that it makes them feel very much at ease.
Thank you. So Ellen, tell us what about your work compelled you to step up and lead on this priority, racial justice.
Yes. Most particularly, I mean, I certainly echo what Andre and Saul have said, but most particularly as a sign language interpreter, my role is to facilitate certainly all the spoken messages that are happening in the classroom and all the auditory information. As a sign language interpreter trying to mediate all that information, I stand in a position where I determine what gets put out, how it gets put out, when it gets put out. And that is a position of power and privilege. That informs my work. I wanted to just add, a couple of years ago at the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, it's our national certifying body and our national professional organization, a proposal was brought up to tie one of our CEUs, one of our continuing education credits, to topics of power and privilege. We had a lot of deep conversations about it, and I'm so proud to have been a person who worked to support that, and it passed. So that now it's required to maintain our certifications that we work on these topics and examine ourselves and our practices. Additionally, I'm a white person on this racial equity panel. It is critical to me that for all of our students that we have all hands on deck. We must work together. I mean, as a woman, as a member of the LGBTQ community, I certainly have experienced some oppression, but I am white and I benefit every day from a system that I didn't ask for the benefits. I didn't create the system to benefit me, and yet I benefit. And it's important to me that I work together, listen to people of color, and work to dismantle the system.
So you might have in that answer, Ellen, given us some insights into this next question. But for you to make that decision, that you would not only be on your district's equity committee, but that you would lead it. Talk to us a little bit about how you felt as you thought about stepping up to that leadership, and some of the things that you believe you've been able to accomplish because you did.
Yes. I feel so passionately about racial and social justice in education and across our communities and our society that it was just an immediate, yes, I will lead this committee. Yes, I will work with my colleagues to make sure that I'm working with my peers to create an atmosphere where we can meet people wherever they are. We can meet staff people wherever they are. So we need to create an environment of awareness, of education, and opportunities to act. That to me it was no question to me that I wanted to be able to do that. We've been able to have building trainings, bringing in film clips and discussions, articles and discussions. We have coffee talks, we have evening things with dinners, we have luncheon meetings, and it has really moved all of our people at our work, which for the students, we need to move our staff. Our district is 18% white in the teacher corps, which is the highest in Minnesota, the highest percentage in Minnesota. Certainly our ESP corps is more reflective of our students in our communities, but we have, if I may, 37,000 students, 33% Asian, 30% Black, native born, and as well as immigrants and refugees, 21% white, 14% Hispanic Latino, and 2% American Indian. 34% of our students are EL, English language learners, and we have over 100 languages and dialects in our school. With a white teaching corps, 82% white teaching corps, we've got a lot of disconnect. We must move for our students.
Thank you. So Andre, can you talk a little bit to your colleagues about the work that you've been doing?
Well, yeah, so I'm part of a grassroots organization in the Binghamton area called CARES, which stands for Community Activists Restoring Educational Standards. And what we do as an organization is to educate and make parents aware of their rights within the education system. We feel that a lot of times parents, especially minority parents, they really don't understand the rights that they have, especially in regards to superintendent hearings or when their child is being disciplined. And so we go to work as advocates for these parents when their student, when the parent has been called into the school because there's a disciplinary issue with their student. We go with them as an advocate to make sure that they're getting an equal hearing and make sure that they're getting an equal a fair representation at their meeting. We just recently had a workshop that taught parents on what their rights were in regards to superintendent hearings. And a lot of parents don't understand that, that at the building level, only a principal has the ability to suspend a student. And so we've had parents who said, they've called where an assistant principal said your child is suspended. And now they've taken that and said, well, no, and now I know my rights, that only that only the building principal can suspend my student, because we were having an issue within the Binghamton School District where they would suspend the child and send the student home and then notify the parents after. And so now you have a child that's on their way home without any parental supervision, especially if that child lives in a two-parent household where they're both working. And so now you're saying, not only did you possibly suspend a child for disciplinary action, now you're giving him the leeway to go out into his community and just not do really anything. And now he's idle. And as we know the saying, idle hands, can create mischievous things. And so we're trying to inform parents that, it's about making sure that they understand what they have to do as parents to make sure they're advocating for their students and for their community overall.
Thank you. So I want to give you a chance also to talk a little bit more in depth about the work that you're leading on.
Sure. So one of the things that we saw during is when the current president was elected, our students had a lot of fears, a lot of concerns, a lot of questions. So we, on a local level, we tried to do a few things, but being part of the MTA Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee, what I did was I spoke with our current chair, and we decided that during our Ethnic Minority Affairs committee conference, which happened in December, we would have a open discussion where everyone could come in, all members could come in, and we could discuss any issues. And what we did was, what I asked was that we have representation from all the ethnic caucuses of NEA. So we had all the Northeast regional directors from the Black Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus, and the American Indian Native Alaskan Caucus come and help facilitate different discussions around race and racial justice. And it was a great success. It was such a great success that we actually, a lot of people that weren't able to attend the conference, they have been emailing or asking us to continue the conversation. So we've been doing regional forums to continue the conversation, and we will continue again into our summer conference. So what we liked that we did best was that we made it a safe space. We made sure that everyone who wanted to come and talk about any issues or concerns that they had was welcome. It wasn't just open for ethnic minorities, it was for anyone who works with students, anyone who works in education, to come and make sure that their questions, their concerns, or their fears were answered.
So when, there are a lot of folks in the audience that might be apprehensive about leading on an effort like that. So talk to us a little bit about, where did you get the skills or the tools or materials that you partner with someone? Because who we kidding? Conversations about race, those are not easy. Those are difficult, and in some instances can open up wounds that, as a lead on something like that, you have to prepare for. Can you talk a little bit about, who you partner with, how do you have the skills and the courage to move forward with it, and what did you think about in terms of next steps, and so that it wasn't just an event?
I think partnering, first of all, with all the Northeast regional directors of the caucuses was one of the best things that happened, because they themselves were elected for those positions. So they have firsthand knowledge, especially in the caucuses that they're in. And just working with different...
Hold on, Saul. His microphone keeps going in and out. Move it up a little bit. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
So I think one of the best things that we did was we had full support, not just from the caucuses, but we also had full support from the Massachusetts Teachers Association. And I think it was, the conversations that we had yesterday are difficult, but we did it in small groups. So people felt more at ease, and it was more like we're doing now, it was a conversation. It wasn't like a, Q&A kind of thing. It was just, it was very easy for us.
And what are your next steps? What are you doing?
First of all, we're continuing with the forums, and then we're gathering all the information and continuing into our summer conference. And we just want to gather the information and see what are the next steps that we can do as an association to make things better.
So I want all of you, just jump in. Talk to us about what was perhaps the most difficult part of doing this work.
I think for me and with the organization that I'm in for CARES, our biggest thing so far, because like I said, we're a grassroots, we just started part of last year, is getting the word out. That's the most difficult. And also, I would say it's probably the challenge of the school district not seeing us as an adversary, but us trying to be a partner. I think for the Binghamton School District, it is a predominantly white school district with students, but the demographics of the area itself is changing so rapidly. And I think the school district and the teachers are trying to figure out ways to how to connect. And so when they have an issue of disconnecting with their students, they just immediately jump to disciplinary actions and not really wanting to understand where the students come from. And so that's where we're trying to build that gap in between, because we're actually, we championed and fought hard for the school district to adapt a restorative practice program within the district. We started it with the middle school in the district to take on the restorative practices, and that it became such a successful program that they've now implemented it within the elementary schools, because they're seeing the effects of it and the impact that it actually has, that if everyone just kind of takes a step back, then that students inside the classroom, that they're now not missing days of education because they've been suspended, or they're not being pulled away or being seen like they're being targeted because they're being pulled out the classroom and sitting by themselves in the principal's office, having lunch, when that could be time that if you use that time voluntarily to make sure that they are there among their peers and saying, well, you know what, this happened, but I'm aware of it and I'm going to work on doing it better. And especially if that connection is made between the teacher and the student, to realize that both parties played a part in that issue, then it makes it for a better education. So,
Ellen, what's been the most difficult part of this work?
I think with regard to with our partnerships and collaborations, the dominant narrative says that educators and parents and community folks are at odds, that we're at loggerheads with one another. And so to get those, we work with parents, we work with community groups, faith communities, the NAACP, et cetera, and to get space together, brave space together, to have these conversations, to find out that we actually are in alignment with what we want for our students, that we believe that we must come together. My liberation is tied with the liberation of our students and families. We must come together for our collective future. And that has been challenging, and it has been absolutely brilliant and so rewarding.
I want to make sure folks heard what you just said, that our liberation is tied to one another. Say more. How is that? I'm so very fortunate that my local is focused on racial, economic, and social justice. I, as one person, I can do the best that I can to become the best practitioner I can. I can become the most skilled in my craft, and that will help this student or these students that I'm working with. Working with my peers can help make it better for a bigger group of people. But if we don't come together with our parents, with our community allies, and work to change the conditions that are outside our schools, that show up inside our schools, and interrupt learning and teaching conditions, we can only do so much. And with that, we work together on these larger issues, as well as what's right in our classroom. Thank you. So what's been the most difficult part of this work?
I would say the fear. A lot of people fear either being singled out or not being heard. Specifically, for example, people also seem to be, if something happens, they usually say, oh, I'm used to it. It's happened before, it's okay. I can get over it, I can move on, they didn't mean it. And I think that's something we need to work on, because words do hurt. And they may not be said in a hurtful way or with that, that feeling behind it, but they do hurt. And we just have to be careful of what is said, because it's not just our members, but it's also our students. Our students, once they hear you say something, whether you're somewhere where you think you're not being heard, and a student does hear it, you have to know that they are our future. They are the ones that will be in our positions one day. And we want to make sure they grow up with the full support that they should have.
Do you have some fear as an educator of color leading on this work?
I do have some fear. I've learned to put it aside, and I have to say thank you to LFT, Leaders for Tomorrow, because they taught me. They did give me that confidence that I needed.
I think those were your fellow graduates out there.
Yes, there's many. And it just gave me that confidence to believe in myself and be the person that I wanted to be.
Excellent, excellent. So many of you, all three of you actually, talked about taking this work on as a system. That this was, I mean, certainly there is what we call interpersonal relationship, one person to the other, but that the work that the association is focused on is that structural and institutionalized racism. And all of you talked a little bit about how you were thinking in terms of taking your work on as a system. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I'll start. I just want, yeah. I know that when they're questioning why they should take the work on, sometimes they say, you know, but I love my kids. I just love my kids. I treat them as individuals. Yeah. You know, I'm doing, yes, and if that were enough, we would not have predictable disparities by race. They would not exist. That's not enough. So it means we must dig deeper. We must commit ourselves to personal level, but the systemic things that are behind it, that again are there, that are rolling along without our intention, without our will sometimes, but yet really are causing the snowball to continue. We have to interrupt that. We must.
Excellent, excellent. Anyone want to add anything to Ellen's answer? That was pretty good, Ellen. Yeah, give her a hand. That was good. So I want to ask all of you this question. First of all, I asked you what the greatest difficulty was. I want you to tell me what the greatest joy that you get from doing this work.
I think for me, you know, like I said, just having grown up as a minority male in a school system where, you know, you're already stereotyped because of what you look like. And so there's that stigma that you're not going to make it far and achieve in life. And so going through the different stages of life and making it to this point of, you know, being the president of my local and being the first African-American president of my local, I think for me, the work that I do is because I want to ensure that what I'm doing has a positive impact on the kids that come behind me. That if I can have even an ounce of opportunity, that someone else is getting more than what I was able to get, and that they're achieving and they're going further, and that hopefully they will be influenced to say, I'm going to strive to get more for the person that comes after me. I have 4 younger brothers, and I've told them and I've strived to let them know that education is the most important thing that you can get in this life to attain, to go far, because without it, there's going to be stigmas and stereotypes placed on you that you won't be able to, that the opportunities won't be allowed to you, but you have to get an education. That's the most, and even if you do anything else, make sure that your education is tied. Don't let no one take that away from you. And that's what I definitely try to invoke in the students that I work with and in the organizations that I do, because it is a struggle. You know, we've made improvements, but we're still got some things to improve on. You know, you can never stop improving, because then there's no such thing as a perfect thing, because then we would it would really just be thinking about it and would still strive because some new issue would come about.
So, greatest joy.
One of the things is when someone comes up to you, whether it's either a member, whether it's a student or a parent, they come up to you and genuinely in their face you can see it, and they say thank you. Thank you for making a difference. Thank you for being the voice. Thank you for doing everything that you do to support us. And to me, it's not just about the thank you, it's the fact that they've had that space and they actually feel welcome and they feel like they had the opportunity to express themselves.
Thank you. Ellen? Greatest joy.
The students that I work with are the students that fall into the opportunity gap. There's poor students, students of color, English language learners with special needs. And they're often disengaged from school by the time I get to them. I work with older students. I have been blessed to have some trust from my administration. I'm also going to proceed until apprehended. Yes.
Our motto.
But with my NEA work, I've been able,
Speak up just a little bit.
Yes, thank you. But with my NEA work, I wanted to make sure to take advantage of, I don't want to disappear for 3 days at a time every now and again, and the students not understand where I'm going and what I'm doing. So I've been trying to work with my staff through the school to how can I bring their voices with me when I do my work, and how can I bring it back so that they know, and how can we as staff people use this opportunity as entry points for working with students, whether that's racial justice issues, how to make change in your community, etc. So what is most joyful to me, when I come back and I put together a little slideshow, and again, students are sometimes disengaged in our morning meetings. It's morning, and it's sometimes not much about them. And when I start showing those slides and talking about what it is that we're doing here, what it is that I'm doing, who I'm working with here, and the students are rapt and paying attention and asking questions and thinking, oh, I'm thinking about what I can do too. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we close out the panel, I want to give you a chance to share with your colleagues anything else that you think could be pivotal in not only challenging them to step up to this leadership, but inspiring them, those who have started, to continue going. So think about that a minute. And then if there is an ask that you have of them. So anything else you want to share with them, and any ask you want to make of them. So I'm going to start with you.
All right. One thing I ask, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
The one thing I do ask is to never give up. There's a lot of work to do, and we'll have very bad days, we'll have great days, but never give up. I think we're here, we all know we're here for one reason, which is our students. They always see themselves reflected in us, so it's up to us to stand before them and let them know that we're there for them, that we're there for them every single day. You know, I myself, like I said, I work in an inner city school, and you know, a lot of times I always say I'm always seen as a minority within a minority within a minority. You know, being Hispanic, being you know, sexual orientation, because I'm also a male working in a elementary school level. You know, a lot of times I walk into a school and even though I have a badge that says Worcester Public Schools, employee, says everything, I'm always stopped and questioned. Can I help you? What do you know, can I help you? Did you go to the office first? You know, do you know where you're going? Can I take you there? And it's one of those things, you know, and like I said, I'm seen as a minority within a minority, but like I always say, I will not let anyone treat me as a minority within my own profession. You know, I am an education support professional, and I am an educator, and as we all are, and it is important because we are, you know, the basis for our students, you know, and that's something.
Yes.
And I always say, you know, we're essential, and we're essential to the to everything for our students. You know, we're not just there as an academic support. We're there for their emotional needs, for their social needs, and a lot of us we're their eyes, ears, their voice.
Yeah. Try again. Go ahead. There it is. We're just having all kinds of technical difficulties.
Yeah,
there we go.
Okay. So like I said, you know, all of us, you know, we're the ears, the eyes, the voice, and sometimes even the legs and the arms of our students, depending what we do. And we're everywhere, ESPs, all the way from preschool to 12th grade to higher ed. And we're the ones that the students see every single day. And we just need to keep making sure that our presence is there and that it's strong and that we're noticed.
Yes. Ellen, anything else you want to share and then ask of this group?
The civil rights era of the 1960s, if any of you have, like me, wondered what would I have done imagined what would I have done in those times. Now is the civil rights times of our lifetime, of our generation. The time is now for our strong, united action and collective voice right now. We cannot wait. Woo. And my ask of you is what we know about ESP. We are embedded in our communities. We have deep connections and roots. Sometimes those are separate from our school lives, sometimes not. But what I'm asking of you is please to join me in the community connections that we have with our faith groups, with our community organizations. Bring them together with our local work and our state work, our associations work, and make our associations join with our parents, our community members. Lead, walk beside, follow, but together we must. Together.
Andre, what do you want to say and what do you want to ask?
I think I would say, well, first, how like this is mind-blowing to be sitting up here with Saul and Ellen, because if you would ask me 5 years ago that I'd be sitting on the panel at ESP, I'm like, I don't even know what ESP is. Well, okay.
As you can tell, he's one of our young leaders.
But one of the things I think I would definitely not so much ask but charge all of you with is don't let your title as an ESP limit you on what you can do in your school, in your building. You know, because just like everyone else, every administrator, every teacher, we take it home with us. You know, when we go home, we think about that one kid that might not have a meal. We think about that one kid who, you know, may not just have the best homegrown living. And so when we see them the next day, we're worried about them making sure that they're there, that they're present, that they're fed. And so I charge you with make a difference. You know, don't think that you can't make a difference because you're in an ESP. Go into your community, talk to your local, you know, talk to your members in your local and say, we can do something. Because even if you change the life of just one student, whether it's one student in your building, one student in your district, one student in your community, you've made a powerful impact in that one person's life.
Thank you. So now it's your turn to ask these amazing people whatever you'd like. Raise your hand. We have executive committee members all over the room. Raise your hand if you'd like to ask them a question. Do you see one, Shelley?
I got
She's
Marty.
running. She's running.
Shelley.
Tell us who you are and then
Hi.
ask your question.
Thank you, Becky. Marty Alvarez from Traverse City, Michigan. I'm a school bus driver. We always dealing with discipline on our buses. What I was wondering was the first, Andre, when you did your opening statement, you mentioned the gap between, were you talking about bridging the gap between administrators, educators, and the student, or what?
Sure.
That wasn't quite clear to me, but it sounds so interesting. Yeah, we need to bridge that gap.
Yeah, so the gap that I was talking about was the gap between parents and the school district, so administrators and board officials, because a lot of time, you know, there's that disconnect that parents, especially in the school district that we are involved with, they say, you know, that the school only contacts them when there's something wrong with their child. They never contact them when there's things going right, or they contact them at the very last resort. So it's like, we just had a meeting last week, and a parent said, well, you know, that their child was on the brink of suspension, and the parent, you know, asked the administrator, why didn't you contact me when there was an incident before you got to the suspension? And so that's what our organization does, is try to make sure that the school district is doing what they can to bridge the gap to make more effective communication with their parents.
Thank you. Eric, do you have someone?
Yes, I do. And they wrote their question down, so it's going to be right to the point.
Wow, very nice. Who are you?
Good afternoon. I'm Felicia Hampshire from the state of Florida. And I just want to thank each and each of you for being so courageous. It takes courage to sit on the stage to do that. So my question to you, either of you can answer it. This work is so important to us. What do you think the impact will be on the progress of this work based on the current political climate? Thank you.
Ooh, who wants to take that one?
I'll start. Here's what I know from standing shoulder to shoulder with teachers and parents and community members, is that when I'm by myself or with my ESP team and we're asking our district for things, it's easy to dismiss us because they think it's about us, it's about me, it's about what I want, it's about my comfort. Even when we're advocating for what students need, it's easy for folks to dismiss us. But when we bring those people together and we're all together saying, this is what we need for our children, you can't dismiss these people. And you can't dismiss that it's not about their children and what they need. Likewise, with legislators, elected officials, appointed officials, it's very difficult to say no to your constituents when you bring in some families. We're talking about special education needs and what changes they want to make at the state level. You bring in your families, it's not just educators whining and wanting to make ourselves comfortable. Bring them in, it's very difficult to say no to the parent of a student with special needs. So I'm really committed to coalition work.
Coalition work. Yes, go ahead, Alan.
I'll just echo off of what Ellen said. And so in our school district, at the school board, what CARES does is that because we are an advocate for parents, we always notify parents when there's a school board meeting. And because at the public comment section, we tell them, bring your presence, because your presence in the meeting is the greatest thing you can have. Because if people see that you are willing to actually advocate for change, they will actually consider it and seek your opinion. And so we have parents that we say, go up to the mic, tell your stories. Let them know that,
yes,
you are aware of the situation and what's going on.
Excellent. I think we have one more. Tell us who you are.
Good morning, Brenda Johnson, Minneapolis, Minnesota, ESP, Cradle to the Prison Pipeline. So this question is going to be directed to Ellen. So with your work, Ellen, I know that you are in St. Paul and I'm across the river in Minneapolis. And so how much of this work that you are starting to do with St. Paul Public Schools has been fueled by the death of Philando Castile?
Thank you. Certainly, St. Paul Federation of Teachers and Education Minnesota have started this work. We have been on this journey for many years. It is all the more urgent because of the death of our brother, Philando Castile, by the hands of a police officer in our suburb. Philando Castile, a dear, dear friend of mine, taught him in the 9th grade. He's a graduate of St. Paul Public Schools. He was Mr. Phil at one of our schools where my dear friends send their children. And my friends had to explain to their children why Mr. Phil wasn't going to be there on the first day of school. My friend's son, he's 8, said, "But Mommy, who's going to feed my friends?" He was our union brother. He was our coworker. I didn't personally know him, but the degrees of separation are few. And we feel this. The system-wide, there are the school-to-prison pipeline, the over-policing of our kids' neighborhoods, some kids, not other kids. Who profits from the system when money is extracted out of our public services, our public schools, and money needs to be put back in? How are we going to put back in? Hey, how about some fees and fines? Okay, how about some court costs? All right. Who, first of all, is extracting that money out? who skims off the top of those fees and fines, and then who also is heavily invested in for-profit prisons and for-profit rehabilitation services. So we are continuing, we did start this work at my local level, and we are continuing this work even more, all the more urgently, to expose what's happening in the system, who benefits, who pays for it. Thank you.
I believe we have 2 more questions. What I want to do, I did want to also hear from you. So I'm going to put those questions up. So we're going to take the 2 other questions, and if anyone wants to come up and share any initial thoughts around those questions, please also raise your hand. I think I saw Shelley, and I think Eric, I'm going to go to you first, and then Shelley. Tell us who you are.
Karen Barnes.
We can hear you.
Karen Barnes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Karen Barnes from Austin, Texas. My question is, first I want to make a comment. My district, my school board, just this past week, last week Monday, voted to put into place starting next school year that we can no longer suspend children grades pre-K through 2nd at all. And so we want to know, what can anybody suggest for help as to how we're going to deal with the students when they are getting out of control in the classrooms?
Yeah. Do you guys have a session after this too? Because you want to come up and talk to these ladies as well. Anyone want to talk a little bit about what their school districts have done? Because we do see that happening, where school districts are actually taking on their policies, but they're not engaging with educators up front about that, and providing them with the training they need to create the kind of atmosphere that makes those policies obsolete. Andre?
Sure, so I'll start. So like I said, one of the things that the Binghamton School District did was implement restorative practice into their school, and that you have to, it's not always, you have to be so quick to react to say, oh, you got to suspend a child. Because when you suspend a child, especially out of school suspension, now that's 5 days that that child's not retaining an education. And so now, and so the problem becomes that now not only is the child out of school, they're lacking education. If that child is now, especially if, depending on their home life, they may not be getting a proper meal. And so there's a lot of things involved with that. And so one of the restorative practices tools that the school district did was they implemented circles, in which the classrooms will sit down and they will talk about the expectations of what the teacher expects of the students, what the student expects of the teacher, and what the students expect of each other. And they list, and they go around and they share those expectations, as well as talk about what they need to do for that day. And so they create like a rule of the classroom, and it's posted in their classrooms, the different expectations of how they interact with each other.
Excellent. And I know that you'd be willing to share more with Karen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And we have one more question, and then if anyone wants to make a comment about these questions on the screen, please do.
I'm Marshall, and I'm from Georgia. And I was just wondering, I don't know of any organization that we have specifically for racial justice within the school systems in the state of Georgia. How would we go about finding if there is such a group, or becoming a part of a group on our own, so that we can try to fight the fights for our students in a state that is so resistant?
How did you start?
I'm sorry.
So?
Sorry. One of the things that...
Oh, boy.
It just keeps going.
Just, take it off and hold
All right.
it at your
So one of the things that I've done is again, I've been heavily involved with the caucuses, and we do get a lot of information through them. And one of the things that they are doing, which is, I kind of want to invite everyone to hopefully be able to participate in it, is they are actually holding different forums and virtual things online. You can get any of the information through any of their websites or even on the Facebook pages. And one of the things that they're doing for the first time this year is they're holding the first NEA Ethnic Caucus Symposium, which will be based on race and social justice. So it's all the 4 caucuses coming together. One of the things that I've found is, when I find that my local or my state doesn't have certain things, and I seek it out through different avenues, networking here, through different people, and find out what their state has and how can it be accomplished for us? How can we bring it to our state or begin to have those conversations?
Great. And I would encourage you, where are you? I can't, you sat down, back down. You said Georgia? So first of all, if you have not already, go on the Ed Justice site, at NEA.org. And it has lots of ideas on how to get started and who to contact. But if you're interested, are you the local president? Then I would contact the local president, let them know that this is a passion for you and that you're seeking assistance, as well as your state president said, let him know that you're interested as well. And he has access to a wide variety of materials and tools to give you those connections perhaps, or lead you to those connections within your own school community. So we have, are you going to, we have expert advice. Yes, please.
I just wanted to respond to your question. Gwinnett County, there's an organization called Gwinnett Stop in Gwinnett County, Georgia, and also the Gwinnett County NAACP. Marlene Tillman is the president of the Gwinnett County NAACP and the executive director for Gwinnett Stop, and she's laser focused on racial justice and the school to prison pipeline and other education justice issues.
All right, so we have our experts up here, so don't go anywhere, ladies. Just sit right there, they'll be surrounding you. Eric.
Good afternoon. My name is Pamela Gates, and I'm from the Maryland State Education Association.
Okay.
I wanted to get back to the suspension and the restorative circles that you were talking about. And I know you're right, when the children are out of school for 5 days, no education, no food, and things like that. But when we do restorative practices with the students and the teachers, has there been any thought in including the parents? Because with these young students, a lot of their behaviors and poor behaviors come from what they've been doing at home. So maybe have they considered including the parents in the restorative circle so that they can understand what the teacher is expecting of the student and the behaviors that they need to bring to school?
I do know that as an organization ourselves, we have looked to provide restorative practice to families, just for them to do it at home. I'm not too sure at what level the school district is incorporating parents into those things, but I do think that is a very good idea because, like you said, a lot of children still take what they learn from home and apply it in public, and then we see it as the students kind of just lashing out. But it's obviously there's something going on at home for them to do that, and so it's a matter of us how as a school district we react to those things.
And Nicole's shaking her head up here. Yes, Nicole. Oh, Dewana. Nicole.
So just very briefly. Okay. The thing about peace circles.
Hold it close to your mind.
I'm sorry. Cheryl Graves with Community
go.
Justice for Youth Institute, NEA Advancement Project. Peace circles. So when you're talking about using peace circles, which are very effective, it's important to start with the adults first so that the classroom teachers and the ESPs understand what they're carrying, what they're bringing, that they have an opportunity themselves to begin to address the issues, the challenges, their own stuff, right? And then for most parents, and you talked about this, when they come to a school, they're seen as the bad parent of the bad child. And so it's not a safe space very often for parents. And so it's really about not just jumping in to address the issues that the young person may be exhibiting. It's about doing some work proactively. So starting out with circles in a way that begin to build relationships and address concerns and having people have a chance to talk through issues and challenges, having that same opportunity for parents, building the relationship between the teacher and the parent so that that conversation it's one that's safe and productive. But then also recognizing that the young people themselves are also coming to school with issues and concerns. And so just doing check-in circles at the beginning of the day, just asking everybody when they walk in the door, how are you doing, what's going on? And if it seems like something's going on, allowing them an opportunity to go, instead of going straight to the classroom to do the work, how about we address some of the social emotional issues first so the academics can be successful?
And you as ESP, and you as ESP are almost always on that front line greeting our students the very first moment of the day. We have one more really quick comment, all the way in the back, Maury.
Good afternoon.
Little louder, put it right up to your mic, to your mouth.
My name is Marion Phillips. I'm from Fernandina Beach, Florida. I work with juveniles weekly. I'm in juvenile court. I handle the attendance for the district, and I've been doing this since 2005 in this particular role. And one of the things that I've seen that when the economy went down is in our district is they got rid of the in-school suspension program. That needs to be brought back into the schools. The younger children aren't the ones that are out getting in trouble, not the first and second graders. But the one thing that has been proven is that children who are not in school are out committing crimes. Some of the students that are in homeschool, that so-called call themselves being homeschooled, they're out committing the crimes. There needs to be programs in the schools for the students to attend, not sending them home where they're out wreaking havoc and breaking into people's homes. This is something that I also sit on a legislative committee, and this is something that I'm working on with getting lobbied into Florida is for some more programs. And as far as the parents coming to school, a lot of the schools don't want the parents on the campus because most of the parents, not most, but a lot of the people that the kids are getting in trouble is drug related. They don't want them on the campus, and they're not going to get involved anyway. They're not going to send their kid to school. But again, what I think is that there needs to be some programs in the school to keep the kids in the school if they get in trouble.
So one of the things that I want to highlight from that is that we know that if our kids aren't in school, they're not learning. And that's the most important thing. And when we keep them in school, we need to have them involved in engaging activities and continuous learning. That is the most important thing about the work around restorative justice and making sure that we address the discipline policies that too often put our students out of school and not having the opportunity to learn. With that, we're going to have to conclude this session, and we're going to give this incredible panel a warm round of applause. They have been amazing. Yeah, stand up, give them a hand. Thank you so very much. I don't know if this is going to work. We've had so many technical...
It is November 8th, and the bags under my eyes are 6 feet deep. My loved ones' voices crack across the miles, and I cannot bring myself to hang up. I try to remember what we were fighting for, but keep coming up blank, and on nights like these, I just need to hear my mom's voice, accept her apology for this country, and promise to do better, to be safer. On November 9th, 10th, and 11th, I'm at a protest every night. And it is only when the police threaten to arrest us, when my feet feel too sore to stand, that I can imagine what equality for all looks like. A place with libraries more full than prisons, where schools don't need to hold bake sales because we've given them all our military money, and there is no Black Lives Matter because everyone knows it to be true. There are no undocumented immigrants because no human is illegal. The voting lines are long and the homeless shelters empty, and every building in Washington, D.C. is named after a Native American leader. And Harriet Tubman and Maya Angelou and Michelle Obama look up from all our currency. I dream of walking alone at night, forgetting everything I learned in self-defense class, and to be an ally is to be human, and social justice work is not tiring because everyone does it. We do not wonder if it is worth it because it has already shown itself to be. We go to sleep clean, bellies full, the blanket of tomorrow carrying us to dawn. Do you hear me?
Nisha's cry for justice reminds us of the incredible responsibility we took on when we made the decision to become educators. And our panelists reminded us that we can and we must be the leaders that our students need. We hear you, Nisha. No question, this work is difficult. Absolutely. There will be people who question why you are doing it. And sometimes you might too. But you always have to find your way back to hope. What Brian Stevenson described in his book, Just Mercy, as an orientation of the spirit. The kind of hope that creates a willingness to position oneself in a hopeless place and be a witness. The kind of hope that allows one to believe in a better future even in the face of abusive power. It is the work of Saul and Ellen and Andre that gives me so much hope. But it's not just them. It's our leaders in education, Austin, who got a GPS grant and led by our ESP leader, Ray Nuwasu, in their efforts to improve educational outcomes for children living in poverty in their school community. It's about our Great Public Schools Fund recipient, Lois Yukna, whose work with the Woodbridge Township Education Association in New Jersey is helping to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline. And it's not just them. It's those of you who are in this room today, who are working every single day to dismantle the systems and change the practices that produce far too many inequitable outcomes and opportunities for our students of color. It is you. You are those people of goodwill who give me so much hope. So don't be shy about your fierceness. Don't be afraid to own your power. Be brave and unapologetic. I need you to be relentless. Let us heed the clarion call from Cesar Chavez. There's no turning back. We will win because ours is a revolution of the mind and of the heart. There's no turning back, NEA, because too much is at stake. When predatory privateers try to dictate and legislate what happens for our students and our colleagues and our families, we won't turn back. We won't turn back, NEA. When the assets of our communities are dismissed and the beautiful tapestry of our diversity is diminished, we won't turn back. We won't turn back. When our beautiful babies are asking us, do we hear them? Do we hear them? We won't turn back. Because we, the members of the National Education Association of the United States of America, are the voice of education professionals. Our work is fundamental to this nation, and we accept the profound trust that has been placed in us. So there's no turning back, NEA. There's no turning back, NEA. There's no turning back, NEA, because our children, our babies are depending on us to be worthy of them. We shall not be moved.